right, we are live here in Johannesburg, South Africa, and joining me on this webcast is Dr. Norah Clarke, the Director of Entrepreneurship for the Universities of South Africa, also known as USAF. Norah, thank you so much for joining me on this webcast where we're going to talk more about your strengths and how it has played out during this unprecedented times with the COVID-19 virus and South Africa being in lockdown as we speak.
Thank you, Magriet. Thank you. Nice chatting to you.
Fantastic. Now, Norah, we had a very interesting conversation not so long ago where you explained to me how you used your strengths when the announcement came of the imminent lockdown. And before we get to that story and actually how you used your strengths and how your strengths showed up, why don't you share with us your top 5 strengths and what it means for you and how you live it out?
Thanks, Magriet. So the interesting thing is that the 5 strengths, my top 5 strengths are there. I'm vaguely aware of them, and here and there I become more aware of them, and as I see them manifest and appear in my life as I do things and as I work and as I go about my daily business. But I've very seldom seen the 5 of them connected in the same moment as I have seen in recent days and the most recent past. And in that sense, if you look at the mix of the top 5, my number 1 is strategic, which is it's a very useful strength, but it's not my favorite one. I will tell you just now what my favorite strength is. Secondly, it is learner. Thirdly comes in
maximizer.
Maximizer, yes, the one that you and I both share, yes, and the one that sometimes causes trouble. And then in the 4th place, there's input. And then in the 5th place, there is my favorite, adaptability. And I've come to, enjoy these strengths as they appear in my life.
Excellent. Yeah. So strategic, just for our audience watching this broadcast, people with strategic see different options very quickly. They know how to get to the goal and the different pathways to get to the goal very quickly. Learner is they love to learn new things, but also to do things better. Maximizers love to take things from average to excellence. People with input gather information that could be helpful later and helpful to people. And then adaptability is they respond to the present pressures very quickly. And people with adaptability also are great in when there's emergencies and really times of crisis. So, Norah, I bet that your adaptability strength is really showing up, in this time.
Yes, Magriet. So the interesting thing was that that in the face of this global pandemic, so there was the run up to the arrival of COVID-19 in South Africa. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was going to be a game changer. We knew it was going to be different. We knew it was going to be bad news. But what I did not anticipate was that on the eve of lockdown, I would be energized. And I felt a little bit guilty about it because I thought, we are talking about people's lives, probably even my own, who knows? We're talking about lives here. We're talking about a global crisis, a global pandemic, the immeasurable suffering that so many people in our country, but across the globe, are already facing. and it's tragic, and it's devastating, uh, and on an emotional level, my heart goes out to everyone who's suffering, and I sometimes envision the kinds of suffering that people have to deal with. But despite feeling that emotion in my heart, I felt energized at the start of what was to be known as lockdown SA. And that was strange. I did not quite understand what to do with this new energy that I felt. And the only way that I could make sense of that was when I realized, wait, I think some of my strengths are at play here. I realized that strategic kicked in straight away. Immediately saw a number of scenarios playing out globally, locally, in my work, in my team that I manage, in the program that I run nationally. I saw scenarios play out, and that wasn't. It was actually exciting. It was interesting to think that yes, there might be change coming, or there's sure to be change coming. What would this change potentially look like? And then on a different level, I could see opportunities. I could see amidst all the despair and the suffering and the hardship, I could see potential possibilities emerge. I could also see a couple of risks, in terms of strategic risks that I needed to manage in my team and that I needed to perhaps alert my organization to. So identifying the risks were also part of how strategic kind of came to the fore in the announcement, immediately after the announcement of lockdown.
The strategic, like say, people with strategic are able to see around the corner, and it's so interesting that you were talking about there was that's exactly what strategic does.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's
so I
exactly
think
what strategic does.
so in all of this, I was painfully aware that I wasn't seeing, all the scenarios. I'm sure I missed a number of potential scenarios. I couldn't possibly anticipate all the scenarios, but I anticipated some. And I anticipated some risks, and it gave me a strange sense of control to to feel that I can do something to manage those risks, that I need to manage those risks in collaboration with my team, and that we need to take certain action steps in terms of work, um, given the potential risks that we were about to face.
Sure. Now, Nora, so that's your strategic. How did your adaptability show up with the different scenarios that that you envisioned? How did that fit together? It's almost like a puzzle fitting together the pieces.
Yes, well, so in a sense, I was thinking these top five plus a couple of others in the top 10, a couple of other strengths, just became like the strands of a woven rug almost, which in a way turned into my own little magic carpet that I think I'm going to use to ride through COVID-19. And the different strands just crisscrossed. They were interlinked, and it's difficult to pull them apart and to identify which strength starts where and which one ends where. But adaptability immediately came into play as well, because that's the one that says, "Whoa, bring on the crisis! We can do this. We can let's just roll with it. Let's make a plan. Let's come up with a solution, and let's be in the mind space where we know there is no predictability." And that's fantastic, because every day And every change in the global and in the national landscape means we have to adapt somewhat. We have
Mm,
to pivot a little. If you talk about entrepreneurship in
mm,
business, we talk about pivoting,
mm,
and in the startup world. So, in a sense, adaptability is also all about pivoting. So, yes, we have a plan, but we know the plan is likely to be tweaked somewhat as we continue.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
there's a lot of excitement in that, to know that once again it's a matter of being in control of circumstances and knowing that I can shape my response to something that could be a crisis.
mm,
There's something that I can control, and what I can control is my reaction and my response. And in that,
mm,
also help my team and work with my team to adapt to whatever comes their way,
mm.
and as change the directives and warn them. I've learned now in time that adaptability can drive other people crazy,
Yes.
but you have to alert the people that you work with to the
Mm,
fact that that is how you roll, and that it's actually a strength. And
mm,
so my team knows that things are likely to change. And in this case, I was able to say to them, listen, we're going to be in a very flexible environment, and for some of you it will be difficult, but this is why we're doing this, and let's just always understand the reasons for what we
mm.
do, and then it doesn't matter so much if what we do changes. And that's the amazing thing of working with the A team. And the A team is the maximizer, of course, Magriet, but you know about maximizer and A teams, eh?
Absolutely, Nora. Thank you for describing adaptability so well. I think there's a lot of value that each of the strengths brings in different situations and in different circumstances. And I can certainly hear that adaptability is, in this specific crisis, just provides the direction that you can give to your team in this time. Yeah, so Maximizer loves to take things from average to excellence, and that's really a need that Maximizer has. And how do you experience Maximizer, in this specific time where with things where doing things in excellence could be a luxury that very few of us really have?
Yes. So maximizer under normal circumstances, the kind of work that we do, we're a fairly young program. We've been in constant change for about a period of 18, maybe 20 months now. And maximizer has not had much time and space in the work that we do at this stage. So Maximizer was a little bit frustrated because priority was not to have things perfect. And
Mm,
priority was
mm,
not to have things at a standard of excellence. Priority for a long time, or for the first few months now, was to just get things in place. And I
mm,
knew that the next step would
mm,
be focusing on quality, making sure that what we do is of an exceptionally high standard. So, in our projects, some of our projects have repeated already, and then the first round is just put a peg in the ground, and the second round is okay. Now we're going to do it really, really
mm,
wow,
mm,
mind-blowingly awesome. That's the objective, and in this case, some of our projects that are more event-based, we've been able to really push the excellence and push the quality in what we do.
mm,
Other of our projects are, of a less visible nature, and some of our things like our documentation and so on have been internal documents and have not necessarily been exceptional or perfect or of a very high quality.
mm,
And now, while we are continuing with everything, all our projects continue. We've had to extend a couple of timelines, made a couple of tweaks here and there, but
mm,
changed certain things that would have been physical events. We've changed to virtual and so forth. But in all of this, while we are now in lockdown for 21 days, we finally have the chance to get our documentation good. Not good, great, perfect.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
But there's another thing, of course, and that is the A team. So the team that I work with closest is they are the A team. They are really handpicked, a small group of handpicked individuals. And in this time, it was wonderful to just stop and think about what each of them would need to flourish in what could be a very, very desperate situation, what could be oppressive, and what could leave the team despondent and discouraged. So it was important for me to see how we can align the growth and development objectives that we had discussed a few weeks earlier in our performance management discussions. We've discussed the ideal development goals that each of the team members have. And here in this time, I see opportunity for them to learn some of the skills that they haven't been able to learn. But now there's time, there's more time. So they've got an opportunity to learn. They can become excellent because they're already A team players, but they can now become excellent in the areas that they had identified as potential growth areas for themselves.
Norah, that's so inspiring that you're sharing this with us, and I want to ask you a question. How important do you think in this time it was for you to know the strengths of your team?
Oh goodness, yes. No, that was crucial and critical, because in a high speed, target oriented state in which we normally execute on a whole really a bouquet of projects simultaneously. The achievers, and we have two achievers in the team, the achievers flourish because they've got their lists and they've got their targets, and they know they're going and they're finishing their targets, and they're nice and goal oriented. And all of a sudden the pace is a bit slower. We don't have the deadlines that we usually have. We still have targets, we still have deliverables, but it's a bit different now. And knowing that the achievers in the team need to have that sense of accomplishment at the end of the day was critical for me as the team leader to know what they needed. They needed to be given additional smaller objectives that they can achieve. And they set their own objectives, but I asked them to formalize objectives that they don't necessarily usually do, but formalize smaller objectives to give them that list of things that they can work through and that they can feel, wow, I've achieved something today. Even though I've been working at home, I have achieved. And that was important. That's just one example of where knowing their strengths and understanding their strengths means a lot. Another one of our team members, actually also two, are relators. And I think it's going to be very difficult for them to be isolated from the office environment. To be maybe in an environment where there are fewer people, just in one case, it's just a mom with two kids, and in another case, it is a person with only one person sharing his space. But they both have this relator aspect, and they need that sense of community in a sense that the office environment gives. And so what we just do is we have a team at 10, which is just our daily team meeting, and there we just make sure that we have video on. And before we get to work, we just chat. Everyone just kind of debriefs about what happened yesterday and what happened this morning. And everyone just gets to vent a little bit, to complain what they want to complain about, share the stories from their days and their challenges with family and kids and so forth, but also share the stories of how they are starting to feel more relaxed, how they are coming to terms with a new way of working. So we have that debrief session, and the relators immediately feel more connected to the rest of the team again. And in that sense, it's beautiful to know that, to be aware of the fact that some people need this, and we need to plan it in the way that we engage as a team.
Snora, it's what you're saying is giving me, it's giving me goosebumps, and I feel rather emotional when I think about the support that you're giving your team through the knowledge of these, of these strengths. So it's amazing. Well done. I'm so happy to hear that. So this brings us to needs, and you put your finger on that. Now, in Clifton strengths, we know that each of the 34 strengths have different needs.
Mm.
And I want to bring back the focus a little bit more to you now, and the needs that each of your strengths have. And I want to hear from you. What are you doing in this time where the traditional way of meeting the needs each of your strengths needs of meeting those needs, the traditional way is just not working anymore. So what do you do to meet those needs? And maybe you can highlight, one or two needs per strength. What are you doing? And where is it really difficult to meet those needs? And maybe there's not a way to meet it. What do you do? What do you do in those circumstances? How do you feel in those circumstances?
So, Magriet, I'm not sure whether I'm understanding it correctly. So I'll share with you, and then you can give me feedback to
Sure.
check that I've responded correctly, or responded to the correct question as I understand it.
There's
Right.
maybe a whole lot of questions in that one sentence. So please continue.
Okay. So, in terms of my needs, I think I need to now look at two other very connected and related themes in my top 5. And they are learner and input. Two sides in a way of a same coin, or two different coins in some cases. But what's interesting here is that the learner in me had to frantically understand the problem. So I did not realize how much of an irritation I was to the family around me, until I started hearing subtle complaints about always having the radio on. Now, normally I'm a person who likes quiet. I like silence. I'm an undercover introvert, so I just like a
Wow.
lot of quiet and natural sounds. And all of a sudden, regardless of what I was doing, I had to have the radio on some news channel while I was doing other things. So that was completely out of character. So I listened to every single local news station. I listened to Al Jazeera, and I listened to BBC, and I listened to CNN, and I had to get the global view of what was happening. And that was all part of learning. And then when I did finally settle down at the end of my day, I would settle down, and I still do, with solid scientific journal articles, papers. What do the credible information sources say? What's happening? What are the numbers? What are the trends? What are the forecasts for the future? I had to know it all. I had to understand. And again, that was how I coped. I coped by feeling that I am in control of the information. I'm not in control of this dreadful virus, but I'm in control of the information out there. I know what's happening. And in that sense, it calmed me. It gave me a sense of calm. It gave me, then the input part came in. It gave me the important sources of information that I could collect and share with the people in my life who might be needing some information about a specific thing. It helped me to identify fake news. It helped me to identify incorrect sources of information. And in that sense, the learner and input parts of my strengths were also interwoven. Again, that carpet, that rug, that woven rug where the strands are just interwoven. And in that sense, yes, it was empowering. It was personally empowering to have access to that kind of information. And that was out of, it was almost obsessive in the beginning. Now, I think we're at day 5 now. Now I'm kind of more relaxed. I feel what I need to now just kind of polish up every day on the latest happenings. But it took a good, pre-lockdown and then the first days of lockdown to just really dig in deep and understand what is happening out there. And in that sense, these were the needs that are associated with those two strengths as I saw them emerge.
Norah, that's amazing, and it's an amazing way how that actually played and how your top 5 is actually amplified during this time, because that's what I'm hearing. It's as if your strengths are just coming to the fore and helping you in cope in this unprecedented times. So that's excellent. Norah, I think we're coming to the end of our webcast, and it was it's the information that you shared and how you live how you are living your strengths, and especially the part of how important it was for you to know the strengths of your team to support them during these times. I think is critical for not only team leaders, but it's critical for managers, executives, and CEOs to meet the people where they are at the moment, where they have the biggest need, and just to talk to them on a human level. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it so much, and I'm sure that the information that you shared with us will definitely add value to team leaders and managers out there.
Thanks, Magriet. Thank you for having me.